Living the Common Styles Kerala and South Kanara Traditional Architecture. Abstract. This article focuses on the similarities of the domestic culture which is reflected in the architecture of these geographies, namely Kerala and South Kanara. We need to study the rich traditional architecture of these identified regions. In this interesting search, the amazing facts regarding similarities between Kerala's traditional Nalukettu houses and traditional manor houses of South Kanara need to be highlighted. The Nalukettu is the traditional style of architecture of Kerala where in an agrarian setting a house has a quadrangle in the center, originally the abode of the wealthy Brahmin and Nair families. This style of architecture has today become a status symbol among the well-to-do in Kerala. Nalukettu is evident in the traditional homes of the upper-class homestead where customs and rituals were a part of life. The manor houses are the dwellings of Bunt community. They are usually set amidst the agricultural fields. The houses have large courtyards to perform all the activities of farming. Usually the products from the field are got separated, cleaned, and stored. They have a large cowshed at the rear of the house. Keywords: Nalukettu houses, manor houses, traditional architecture. Introduction. Architecture over the ages has been an expression of social values. This has been reflected in the domestic architecture of Kerala, India's southern state, and South Kanara, coastal district of Karnataka. Although ever-changing, a distinct regional character has evolved in Kerala, decided by the local materials, climate, aesthetic values, geographical and historical factors. The same would also apply for South Kanara traditional architecture. 2. Kerala architecture. Nalukettu houses. Architecture of Kerala may be classified under two broad heads, namely domestic and religious architecture. The traditional houses and the Nalukettu belong to the domestic architecture. These are timber-walled houses of the Malabar coast in different settings such as beaches, lagoons, and undulating terrains. The materials used for building the houses were biodegradable in some cases. The following stages of design have been analyzed as follows. The environment/site. Typically a Nalukettu is a detached, independent house in a large parcel of land surrounded by field and livestock. The position and sizes of various buildings, including the location of trees and paths, earmarked the boundaries which were to be decided from the analysis of the site according to the prescriptions in the classic texts. The architecture of this region has been of a humble scale, merging with nature. Architectural design considerations. Nalukettu is typically a rectangular structure where four halls are joined together with a central courtyard open to the sky. The four halls on the sides are named Vadakinai, Northern Block, Patanjatanai, Western Block, Kizakinai, Eastern Block, and Thekkanai, Southern Block. The outer verandas along the four sides of the Nalukettu are enclosed differently. While both the western and eastern verandas are left open, the northern and southern verandas are enclosed or semi-enclosed too. Designated functions. The designated functions of the four halls are as follows. Kizakinai is for prayer and puja, Thekkanai for keeping wealth and for human dwelling, Patanjatanai for storage, crops and grains in the olden days, and Vadakinai for kitchen. Thatyashastram, or the techniques of carpentry and traditional vastu, simply means instructions laid down for building a structure, is the governing science in the architectural form of Nalukettu. This branch of knowledge was well developed in the traditional architecture of Kerala and has its own branch of literature under the titles Tantra Samuchaya, Vastuvidya, Manashyalaya Chandrika, and Silparatna too. The courtyard interaction zone. In the Nalukettu design, all the rooms are open to a common courtyard which helps the family to interact more often. The open courtyard provides natural ventilation as well as adequate lighting for the household, offering a healthier environment. Abundant sunlight falling inside the house through the open central courtyard acts as a natural disinfectant and limits the presence of bacteria and fungus inside the house. The rainwater would collect in open vessels placed in the courtyard, thereby enabling rainwater harvesting. The inside open veranda with open courtyard provides ample space for children for their activities. The central courtyard is an outdoor living space which may house some object of cult worship such as raised bed for Tulsi. Sacred plant, as seen in Fig 1. Etikettu and Pathanarakettu. For larger homes and wealthier families, there are more elaborate forms of the Nalukettu, called the Etikettu, 8-hallied with 2 central courtyards, or Pathanarakettu, 16-hallied with 4 central courtyards, as in Fig 2. Fig 2, Nalukettu houses and Etikettu houses 4. Planning and layout. Basically the domestic architecture of Kerala follows the style of detached building. The rectangular plan is usually divided into 2 or 3 activity rooms with access from a front passage. The projecting eaves cover a veranda all around as in Fig 3. Fig 3, verandas. A transition from the outside to the inside. 4. A Kerala courtyard house is a compact structure in a large compound, next to a kulam, bathing tank. In its most developed form, the typical Kerala house is a courtyard-type Nalukettu. The Nalukettu is the principal structure of a garden compound. The setting of the building in the open garden plot was again necessitated by the requirement of wind for giving comfort in the humid climate. The garden may contain cattle sheds, bathing tanks, wells, farm buildings, grain stores, silos, etc., as ancillary structures, the whole being protected with a compound wall or fence. 3. Architecture of South Kanara. South Kanara is the coastal region of Karnataka state. It is along the western Ghats along the Arabian Sea. South Kanara consists of the districts of Dakshina Kannada and Udupi districts. These lie in the warm humid climatic zone, where the annual temperature variation is around 5 to 8 degrees Celsius. The annual rainfall is more than 3,000 mm/year. Hence the humidity is very high. In the warm humid climate, to achieve comfort indoors, providing ventilation becomes an important aspect. The predominant winds are from the southwest direction and the rains are also received from the same direction. The unique problem in this region is to control the effect of the sun and the driving rains from the same direction and the same time, effectively allowing good ventilation. Spatial organization. The vernacular houses in South Kanara region were usually built in the middle of agricultural fields. The houses were surrounded by very high compound walls. The living areas were arranged around 1 or 2 courtyards. The size and character of the vernacular houses were governed by the size of the family and the community which it belonged to. Usually the large houses were built on more than half an acre of land. 1. Fig-4, view of a vernacular house in South Kanara region. Usually the rear of the house would be occupied by the cowshed, storage and toilet area. The courtyard in front of the cowshed was being used for all farming activities, like storage of grains, cleaning of grains and storage of dry hay. The compound walls were very high. Fig-5, view of the courtyard between the house and compound wall. Materials and methods used in construction. In the vernacular structures, sustainability and energy efficiency are an integral part of construction. The interiors are comfortable using appropriate materials for construction. The roof was sloping with covering of Mangalore tiles. All important spaces would have false ceiling made of timber. The living room, which were very huge, would be provided with double tiling so as to provide insulation. The walls were constructed with laterite blocks which are more than 30 cms in cross-section, which would give protection from rain and heat due to the material density. The windows were made of timber with vertical mullions also made of timber. This would cut down the amount of solar radiation entering the interiors but would allow the breeze inside. 1. The sketch below gives the typical section of a vernacular house, which shows the detail of mud wall constructed over granite foundation and large overhangs to protect the structural wall from rain and sun. Detailing. The sloping roofs have a large eaves projecting usually 50 to 60 cms projecting beyond the wall. At the end of these eaves are the gutters to collect the rain water. In this way the rain water doesn't flow on the walls and the surface is not wet. Entrance gateways. Both the contexts have got bold entrance gateways emphasizing entrance. In Kerala the entrance structure is patipura, constructed like the gopuram of a temple. Usually in South Kanara the entrance structure is the continuation of the high compound wall. It consists of seating areas and sometimes double-storied. Courtyard. In the context of Kerala and South Kanara, the courtyard acts as a space for rituals besides acting as a comfort provider. One usually sees a tulsi plant in the middle of the courtyard. Planning. In its layout, the Nalukettu house has rooms surrounding a central courtyard. In the manor houses we have hierarchy of the living spaces. The public spaces, living room or chavadai where gathering/meeting take place, are placed immediately after the entrance. The private spaces are towards the interiors. Materials. Timber/wood are the prime structural material abundantly available in many varieties in Kerala and South Kanara. The skillful choice of timber, accurate joinery, artful assembly and delicate carving of woodwork for columns, walls and roof frames are the unique characteristics of traditional Kerala and South Kanara architecture. In case of Kerala and South Kanara, Mangalore tiles, baked mud clay, have been used as roofing material. The resin of cashew nut seed is applied to the timber because of its availability, economy, and power of preservation. Roof forms. Keralan roofs are pitched at steep 45 degrees, with a curved ridge from which rafters radiate at either end and gables projecting over a hipped section. South Kanara roofs have a pitch of usually 23 to 30 degrees. Usually in the front elevation they have hipped profile. In style and technique there are remarkable similarities between these two contexts. Elevational treatment. The elevation is simple with clean lines rising to support the roof above which appears projecting the flow of a smooth circular arc onto its eaves. Conclusions. Since time immemorial, traditional domestic architecture of Kerala and South Kanara have similarities which have been reflected in their design and roof forms. The design has further been influenced by climatic, geographical, and historical factors. A remarkable feature of the houses of South Kanara and Kerala is their excellent adaptation to the typical climatic conditions of the region, which may be classified as warm-humid. Relief from oppressive, sticky heat is critical in providing thermal comfort. Thermal comfort in Nalukettu and Manor houses is achieved by proper layout, selection of appropriate materials for construction, design, and detailing. Usually the temperatures during the day are in the range of 32 to 38 degrees Celsius. During monsoon months from June to September there is heavy rainfall, about 3,000 millimeters annually, from southwest. The courtyards, though usually enclosed, admit sufficient breeze. The thick walls of mud provide insulation from external solar heat. The architectural detailing evolved is effective in mitigating the adverse effects of the harsh climate in the South Kanara and Kerala region.